Well, snow on the ground is just one of the weather concerns this morning. News 13's Victoria Dunkle is streaming live this morning from Henderson County in Victoria. The fruit farmers were paying attention to the freeze warning.
You know, whenever we say the word freeze at this point in the year, that definitely gets their attention. It gets all of our attention, but there's something interesting about the timing of this freeze this year. Marvin Owings and I were talking. He is the director of the Cooperative Extension here in Henderson County, and we were talking about why this time around there isn't as much of a sense of concern and I dare say panic as we saw last time this happened. But what's different this time around? I mean, it's still freezing.
Well, yes, it is freezing, and you can see with all the snow and so forth, but this is a good thing.
This is a good thing?
Absolutely.
This time around, what? Okay, so what?
Okay, the reason being is these buds are still very tight, so they're completely dormant. And so the bud scales are protecting the flower inside. So we're more normal as far as the development of these buds right now.
Right.
So...
But I think we have a little bit of video of what happened when we weren't, as you say, in a normal situation or a normal part of the process here from last year. What was different from last year to this year regarding this when this freeze is hitting?
Last year we had temperatures in the low 80s the last 2 weeks in March.
Right.
So everything was moving at least 2 to 3 weeks earlier than normal. So thank goodness this year we're back on track as far as bud development.
And you said actually having the freeze come right now actually gives them a little bit more insurance in case we do get another cold snap, maybe even into April like we've seen in the past, right?
Yes. This cold weather will slow the development of all of these buds.
All right.
So it's a good thing.
Well, coming up, we're going to find out exactly how much of a good thing this is and kind of get a feel for what the farmers and the growers are thinking about when it comes to the potential for this year's yield and some other aspects in the process as we get ready to see these wonderful apple orchards come to life. Live in Hendersonville, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.
Well, that wintry weather on the first day of spring gave drivers a tough time last night. Heavy snow combined with gusty winds created near whiteout conditions on area roads. This is what it looked like in northern Buncombe County. Drivers say the snow presented an unexpected challenge while they were trying to make their way around.
It's like the screensaver where it's blowing directly at you.
I've had to stop 4 or 5 times because I can't see nothing. I'm going to put my windshield off. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Highway Patrol tells us, though, they did not see an unusual amount of accidents during the brief snowstorm. And the snow's on the ground in the orchards in Henderson County. That's where News 13's Victoria Dunkle is live for us this morning. And Vic, you found out this late March freeze, actually, it does not have growers really on edge. Why is that?
Well, because it's the way things played out this year. The scenario is a little different than when we saw the freeze hit last year around this time. The freeze kind of came a little bit after the end of March, but I was talking to Marvin Owings here, who is the director of the Henderson County Cooperative Extension. And last year we had some like brushes with summer that really set things up and got the trees excited about getting into blossom and bloom. Last time in our last half hour, we were talking about how the apple buds are looking really good. They're tight, and that's why this freeze is not such a concern for apple growers. But you say there may be a little concern for another growing.
Yes, our peaches and nectarines, most of these, or a lot of them, are in the pink stage, and even some are in full bloom.
And this is from a local tree that you trimmed this off of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And why is this such a bad scenario, or potentially bad scenario, with the weather we're seeing right now? Because the temperature is right around 27, 28 degrees.
Right. This is a chart here, and this is the pink stage, and typically around 25 degrees, you could get 10% kill for a half hour at that temperature.
And last year we saw the apple growers lose about 60% of their crops when that freeze hit.
Yes.
Have you talked to any of the peach growers? Were they doing anything special tonight?
There's not a whole lot you can do about it with the breeze, the wind that we have now. You know, anything over 5 miles an hour, there's really not much you can do.
Gotcha.
If it's below that, you can use irrigation, overhead irrigation for frost protection, or wind machines.
Real quickly, we've got about 10 seconds here. What's the outlook for this year's crop? Last year, they're trying to make up for a 60% crop loss from last year. How are things growing, if you will, this year?
The apples are looking fine.
Great.
Peaches, we may have a little damage.
All right, but we'll keep watching because we know we grow some of the best fruit in the world right here in our mountains. So we'll be checking on the situation. Coming up, we're going to talk to a grower about what the scenario is, how they're watching out for the weather. Reporting live in Henderson County, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.
It is pretty out there, late coming though, and really cold today. Wait till you see how cold just ahead.
All right, and the snow is one concern, but those temperatures have had fruit growers' attention.
News 13's Victoria Dunkle is live in an orchard in Henderson County. Victoria, did the freeze cause any damage overnight?
You know, we've been looking around here. If you can look down here on the ground, we've got a little bit of snow on the ground. But that's not the issue at all. In fact, if we look at the trees, they're pretty clear. You don't see any signs of any steps being taken to protect the buds here. And that's probably because, well, I'm talking to Stephen Godfrey, and you're with Apple Wedge Packers. You're the orchard manager, and these trees are actually kind of at a good point for a freeze to come through, right?
Yeah, they're at a very good point. We're a lot later than we were last year, so some of these things are just barely silver tipping right now, so we're looking pretty good. And
you were talking about last year at this point, you had already come out and done what you called a spraying on the orchards and so on. Mm-hmm. And then we had that cold snap, and it caused a lot of damage. Talk about what you saw last year and how much ground you're trying to make up this year.
Well, last year this time last year we had already sprayed twice.
Okay.
And we were putting our second application on starting today. And this year we haven't even sprayed yet. We're not going to until next week, so we're good 10 days to 2 weeks behind where we were last year. So that puts us in a lot better situation when it comes to cold damage.
Now the overall average was about 60% crop loss last year. I mean, how much of an economic hit is that for growers and packer groups like yours?
That's huge. It's 60%, 50 to 60% depending on who you are of your production gone. If you took that out of any operation, that's going to be a huge financial burden.
But looking at these trees, you've been out in the orchards, you've been following this closely. How is this year's crop shaping up?
This year's crop's looking a lot better. I mean, we had last year's frost, so we're going to have a big return bloom this year. That's what we're expecting. So, we're going to have to do a good job.
So I can get ready for some good apple cider, great apple pie, apple cobbler,
yes,
apple pancakes. Can you tell it's almost breakfast time? But you know what? That's good news because we grow some of the best fruit right here. And they say these freeze today, not really a big issue, but they will keep an eye on it as Jay keeps talking about the temperatures going down a little lower. Live in Henderson County, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.
Now, we did know there were going to be lots of freezing temperatures with that freeze warning yesterday, and it's given some fruit growers in the mountains and the upstate a little bit of worry and concern. They're watching those temperatures.
They are closely. News 13's Victoria Dunkle joins us live this morning from an orchard in Henderson County. Victoria, what are they seeing there?
Well, it's a quiet morning right now, but we're talking about, folks, this is a peach blossom from some of the local growers here. And as you can see, the flowers have already come out on this. This is a little further along. And so there's a little concern about what these temperatures are going to do to the peach crop. But if we're looking at these apple trees, things are looking a little more promising here. I was talking to Stephen Godfrey, who is with Apple Wedge Packers. You're the orchard manager. And we were talking about how the timing of this freeze is actually kind of good for everybody. What does this mean because of the way the trees are?
Well, we're not in danger of losing a crop. You see, there's no blooms on these trees, nothing's out. So this will just do nothing but hold them back a little bit longer.
But last year we saw a much different scenario because we'd had so many warm days in the last part of March and so on that when the freeze hit, you guys were already dealing with a lot of crop loss, right?
Oh yeah, we dealt with a big time crop loss. Last year we were probably anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks ahead of what we would consider to be a normal year.
And the average was 60% crop loss, and that's a $24 million a year industry here for Henderson County. So 60% of that money disappeared when these crops took this hit. When is it safe? I mean, obviously you're watching still the temperatures even today. When are you guys able to go, okay, we're good?
We typically consider our safe date the 15th of May.
Really?
Yeah. So we still got another 2 months almost to go until we can breathe that sigh of relief.
And you guys really are watching out that these are your babies. This is your bread and butter, and you guys really put a lot of love and care into this. What's the crop looking like for this year?
Crop looking very good. I mean, we have expecting a very good return bloom considering last year's loss. So, knock on wood, will be good.
If we can keep the freeze from coming back in the wrong timing. Right now, this cold weather is okay this time around. And that's pretty good news because 85% of the apples that North Carolina grows come from right here in Henderson County. So this is an important morning, but they're breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief, but they're looking forward to May 15th, I think. Reporting live in Henderson County, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.